I really think the 2012, 2016 gym culture screwed a lot of women when it comes to fertility. And I'm saying that as a woman who loves going to the gym, and I ate up that culture. Like Paige Hathaway, if you know who I'm talking about, she was my idol, and I still love and respect her to this day. But a lot of the advice and the health practices that many of us women were following, or maybe are still following, has come around and bit us in the butt as we want to explore fertility when we still want to start families. And I'm telling you this as a registered dietitian with 8 years of experience. I see a lot of the same patterns come into my office with women who are healthy, right? They do all the healthy things, they eat all the protein, they're in the gym, they're even normal or maybe a little overweight, but they are still struggling with fertility. And I want to share some things I've gleaned from my experience working with these women, as well as my own experience with losing my period for over a year. I'm going to tell you that story. And I'm going to give you the 4 to 5 biggest things. I'm going to say 5 biggest things to really think about. Before I do that, I want to remind you that this podcast is to give you some information to think about. This is not personalized nutrition advice. These are things that you can take and apply to your own life or use as reflection pieces. Because if you are really struggling with fertility and any of these things that I recommend to you stick out as something you want to change or try, if you feel like you have the internal motivation to apply these recommendations to yourself, by all means, please do it. These are all healthy recommendations. None of these recommendations will cause you harm. If you are confused and you're having trouble putting all the pieces together, know that fertility is a really sensitive topic and nutrition is ultra individualized. There is not one size fits all treatment for either. And so when we put these two pieces together, it's just even more personalized. So I recommend seeking out a registered dietitian who has experience in women's health and or fertility. If you listen to this podcast and you're like, okay, some of these things are ringing true to me, I just don't know how to put it all together, because it can be a little complicated, right? Things get sticky in real life. It's not just take information and apply. So Megan and I, we are dietitians here in Orlando. We offer in-person sessions as well as telehealth virtual sessions. And if you want to find someone in your area who isn't one of us, please make sure that they have history working with women's health. Ask if they've helped with fertility. Ask their outcomes. That's so important. There's many great dietitians out there, but fertility is a whole different ballgame. And if you're speaking to someone who's primarily weight loss, they may not be looking through the lens of fertility. So first I wanted to often tell you a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to give you the 5 things that you have to think about if you are an active woman who is also trying to get pregnant. When I was 22, no, I was 24. I had lost my period for about a year and change at this point. It was 14 months total. And I didn't really think much of it because I was not anywhere near towards family planning. And really what I cared about was being lean. So I had started weight training at around age 19, 20. And throughout the next 3 years, my obsession, it was just all consuming. I was all about the gym. I was all about lifting weights. I was all about trying to build a booty. I was all about protein shakes. I was all about eating carbs. Like there was like this whole thing like in fitness culture, like we were like loving carbs again, and everything was centered around protein and carbs. And I was in the gym, I'm not even kidding you, 6 days a week. And most of those days I was doing some kind of weight training, and then I was also doing HIIT cardio. On top of that, I got a dog and I was walking my dog. Like I was a very active person, and on paper my diet looked healthy. And I was definitely leaner than I was now. I was really lean. I was relying on protein shakes twice a day. It was great. But then I started to feel a little bit weird because after about 6 months I didn't have my period. And so I went to my OBGYN, I brought it up, and they did some testing, and they were like, well, you don't have PCOS, like some of these hormones are a little bit off the ratio. We're going to refer you to another OBGYN who has a bit more experience. And by the way, they had done an ultrasound of my ovaries. My ovaries had, like, one of the ovaries had some cysts on it, but it wasn't enough to be diagnosed as PCOS because my androgens were within normal range, and I think the cyst count was like too low to technically be PCOS. But something was definitely off, and not having your period is one of the biggest signs that something's off. Like, I didn't need a test to tell me something was off. So then I go to the next OBGYN, and she kind of said the same thing. She was like, I think you need to see a fertility doctor, because at this point it had been about 8 or 9 months, perhaps, of not having a period. So I go to this fertility doctor, and when I tell you, this was like the worst experience I've ever had. I mean, it shouldn't have been so bad, but I left feeling hopeless and angry. The doctor, he was an IVF doctor. That's his lane. And he was so in IVF that I'm a little surprised that I got recommended to this person. He's wonderful at what he does, but I wasn't even trying to start a family. And they looked at my labs, and they looked at me, and they were like, well, you don't have PCOS. Maybe this is just how your body is. He didn't suggest perimenopause. He didn't suggest anything like diagnostic. Just kind of was like, maybe you're not going to have a period. Maybe you just have a faint period. And that was literally all the answers I got. Luckily, I talked to a nurse practitioner afterwards. She was super comforting to me. She was really kind and understanding. And she was like, no, like, you'll figure this out. But I didn't leave with anything tangible. And in hindsight, I'm like, it was so obvious what was going on. I wish somebody had just, like, asked me lifestyle questions. So I went on a journey to figure this out because I knew in my heart that one day I wanted a family. That was so important to me. And honestly, when you don't have your period for a long time, you do start to feel like there's something wrong with you. You lose touch with your, I don't want to say you lose touch with your womanly side, because that wasn't it. But at the time, when I'm in my low 20s, I'm 24, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, all my other friends are complaining about their periods, and I'm like, I kind of longed for that. It's just a piece of being a young woman that, you don't appreciate until it's gone. And so I found out about something called hypothalamic amenorrhea. And this is where a woman overtrains and or undereats, and then therefore her body doesn't feel safe enough to have a period. And her androgens aren't typically high, which is one of the hallmark pieces of PCOS, as you might have high androgens or testosterone, along with the cysts on your ovaries and losing your period for a certain amount of months. So that wasn't my problem. I had a whole host of other problems, but that wasn't one of them. And so what happened was I realized that I was training so much and I was eating very little food. I mean, relative to what I was training. Because if you were to like look at my diet as a person who wasn't exercising as much as me, you would have been like, what are you talking about? This person eats plenty of food. And again, on paper, I was like eating 6 times a day. But most of that was like chicken, broccoli, rice, protein shakes, overnight oats made with almond milk, and, like peanut butter powder. And I realized that I was doing too much, eating too little, and not eating enough dietary fat. And so I really scaled back the lifting, and I did gain a little bit of weight. Not so much that I felt like a foreigner in my own body, but I went through this process, and it didn't just like happen overnight. It really took me like weeks to be like, okay, no, like, Kate, do not go to the gym today. You've already gone 4 times. You do not need to go to the gym. And if you've ever been like addicted to fitness, like that's hard. Some people have the opposite problem, but at the time I was like, what am I supposed to do with all this free time? I felt bad for resting. I felt bad for chilling. So it was a mental battle. And at about 14 months, it was Christmas Eve, I got my period back. And I realized I was like, oh, there was nothing wrong with me. I was just not taking care of my body the way it needed. I had gone from being like overweight to being too lean. So I was like all or nothing, because before I got into the gym, I was, overweight. I was drinking, I was snacking, I was emotional eating, I was binging, I was doing all these things. And the gym in a lot of ways saved me, but in other ways it robbed me of my fertility. And so now here I am at age 31. I have a toddler. Periods have been regular ever since. And I want to share with you some of the wisdom that I've gleaned from my own experience and the women I've had come in who have gotten pregnant after applying these strategies. I wish I had more case studies. I probably have 6 in the past 2 years, because really a lot of women don't even think to go see a dietitian. They go straight into seeing a fertility doctor. And I think that's a wonderful option. It's also a business. and their goal is to get you to get pregnant with IVF. And so a dietitian is not wanting you to get pregnant with IVF unless you want to. We don't make money if you get pregnant from IVF. That's that. So here are the biggest things that you need to consider. Number one is, are you overtraining? And I'll be honest, this question might be kind of hard for a lot of people to answer. And if you're watching this on YouTube, forgive me, I have a light here that just keeps flickering off. It's kind of, there we go. This might be a hard question to answer because overtraining is relative. Let me tell you an example I had a few months ago. She came in and her doctor had told her she had the blood work of an Olympian. Okay, and that's like great, right? We think, oh, you have to be healthy to get pregnant. And that there is some truth to that, right? Like if you're too sedentary and too inflamed and too inactive, you can also experience fertility issues. But this is primarily for the active women. And I mean, when she was getting up so early to exercise, she was eating really low fat meals, she was doing all sorts of stuff, walking her dog. I mean, just doing the most. And we actually had to reframe her exercise routine to be more restorative and less active, less, like intense. She was training like an Olympian when she really didn't need to. And this was hard for her because one of the other things you have to consider if you are a woman who's trying to get pregnant is that those goals, getting lean and getting pregnant, conflate. So I'm kind of going out of order here. I want to go back to this one. So number one is trying to lose weight as an active woman and getting pregnant. Now, there is nothing wrong with weight loss if that is what's going to help you get pregnant. However, overtraining, killing yourself in Barry's boot camp, going to Orange Theory every day, hitting PRs every day at the gym, doing your heaviest squat, following it up with sprints on the treadmill or the assault bike. No, that is not really going to even help you with weight loss necessarily. We've done podcasts about that. But also it's sending a message to your body that you are burning a lot of energy in a high stress environment. It is not a safe place to host another life. Okay, this is especially true if you are overtraining day after day without rest. And by rest, I mean like full 24-hour cycles. So if you lift heavy on Monday, probably don't want to do HIIT on Tuesday. But if you do HIIT on Tuesday, then you better not do a dang thing on Wednesday besides like a leisurely stroll or yoga. I'm serious. And not the kind of yoga that like breaks your back and makes you get your heart rate up really high. I'm talking like ooey gooey, slow, stretchy yoga. I'm serious. I know this feels like a knife in the heart, but overtraining sends a message to your body that it's just not the right time to host a human life. Baby fetuses need rest. They suck your energy up. They're like little parasites. And if you don't have any energy left in reserve, your body might win that battle and not get you pregnant, which is not what you want, right? This is the time your body wants to be the loser. You want to be giving away all of the energy to that fetus. So overtraining, not recommended. And in line with that, trying to lose weight through overtraining, not recommended, okay? So what is the right amount of training? Well, this is where the personalized approach really comes in, because doing too little and quitting completely, probably not the best move. But if you feel in your heart, if you're listening to this and you're like, whoa, yeah, I'm like addicted to the endorphins and the sweat that I get when I lift heavy, cut back by 50%. I'm not even kidding. If you're going to the gym 5 days a week, you need to go 2 days and throw in a third day of really light, low impact, okay? I would throw out HIIT completely if I was trying to get pregnant. Seriously, like you don't need to do HIIT right now. Do some weight training between 70 and 80% intensity. You do not need to go 100%. Scrap the boot camps. And then if you want to do 2 or 3 days of lifting and you want to fill in those other days, slow walks. You're not trying to get your heart rate up. You're not trying to beat a PR. Go to a yoga class for the fun of it that helps you restore and recover and stretch and like really tap into that yin, that feminine energy. Do Pilates that isn't hard, okay? Like if 1.5 classes are hard for you, just go to the one to like do it. You're not gonna get the high you get after like a heavy weight training session or an F45 class. But that's the point. That's the point, okay? So I would tell you cut back on heavy lifting training, 50% less for 3 months. And then if you still don't see progress, it's either something else or we really need to take a break. Seriously. So point number 2 was don't conflate weight loss, or weight loss and fertility don't go together. It's like oil and vinegar. The third thing is if you are drastically cutting calories, like you're actively trying to lose weight while trying to get pregnant by going into a deep caloric deficit. What is a deep caloric deficit? Well, I would look at your maintenance basal metabolic rate. And this can be predicted either through a calculator or equation, or you can go and get it tested at like an in-body machine or anywhere where they can measure your resting metabolic rate. Here in Orlando, you could go to DexaFit as an option. And I would take that maintenance, and then I would consider your activity. I would consider where we want your activity to be when you're not overtraining. So that activity factor could be 1.2 to 1.4. If your activity factor, if you do a little Google search of what my activity factor is based on my resting metabolic rate, if it's over 1.5, I want to get it down to 1.2 to 1.4, just to get you in a nice state where your body's going to thrive in pregnancy. That's what I would do. I'd take your RMR, times it by 1.2 to 1.4. That would be how many calories you need to maintain your weight and get enough energy to support your activity level. Okay? And I would have you eat that much. Unless you were obese. If you were obese and we had all these numbers, right? You're obese, we have your RMR, we know your activity factor is going to be between 1.2 and 1.4, which I should have said this, that is like low to moderate activity, right? Like you're walking, you're moving, you're doing things, but you're not like rigorously exercising like an athlete. Then I would give you a deficit between 250 and 500 calories based off that number for fertility. Okay. Really what would be most important is your diet quality, but if you are just overweight or normal weight, that would be where you'd want to eat. I'm serious. I know it's so hard to have two goals, to be lean and also get pregnant, but they do not go together. It is not the time to really try to lose weight. What's interesting and what can happen is throughout this process, as we actually decrease the overtraining and make some modifications for the diet, a woman will often lose a few pounds, or what I mostly hear is that they feel less inflamed, they feel leaner, less puffy. That I hear like 9 out of 10 times within 2 weeks. Not even joking. But we're not chasing you fitting into a small dress size. We're not chasing a number on the scale. That can come postpartum, but if our goal right now is to get pregnant, we are not going in a deep caloric deficit. And too many times I see a woman who is overtraining, maybe eating at maintenance or in a small deficit because she's pursuing weight loss and she's not getting pregnant. And then we fix this stuff up and boom, all of a sudden her body's like, we are getting enough energy, we're getting enough rest. It's a safe environment to make another life because it takes a lot of materials to do that. So the fourth thing that I would consider on top of this is often us gym girlies love our protein. We love our protein. We want to eat 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein. Great, sure, whatever. But if we're eating so much protein that we don't eat enough dietary fat, you are really putting yourself at a disadvantage. Why is this? Well, fat, protein, carbs, they all have different roles in our body. Carbs are our body's preferred source of energy. Protein has a lot of different functions. It helps repair and build muscle tissue. It even helps build the neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine in your brain. It helps transport different materials throughout your body. A popular one is hemoglobin, right? It delivers hemoglobin to your cells, which is what keeps you alive, oxygen, right? However, if we're eating so much protein and not enough dietary fat, our body does not have the building blocks or enough building blocks to synthesize hormones. Anybody that has a hormone issue or a mood disorder, I always look at how much dietary fat they're eating. And the bodybuilding ages, they just told us that fat needs to be low, that you barely should eat any fat because fat doesn't help you get lean and ripped. Okay, carbs and protein help you exercise a lot and get lean. We still need fat, by the way, like if that's our goal. I think we all know that we don't need to be stepping on stage and doing a bodybuilding competition. The low-fat diet is for that population for a short period of time, and even then it's not healthy. But a woman's body needs dietary fat. It needs healthy anti-inflammatory fats from avocado, olives, seeds, nut butters, all egg yolks, salmon, tuna, dairy, full-fat dairy, cheese. All of these foods have dietary fat that breaks down into our body, helps synthesize hormones. Hormones drive our reproductive system. So, you might find that your diet, let's just say hypothetically, we find out that your resting metabolic rate with your activity factor is 1900 calories. We look at your diet and you're eating 1500 calories because you're like weight loss. We may see that you're eating enough protein and maybe enough carbs, but low fat. In that case, we would just add somewhere about 400 calories worth of fat, which isn't really that much, but because fat's got a lot of calories per gram. So you would increase your food from fat. And amazing. Now your body gets what it needs. You're not in an energy deficit. You don't have missing materials. We're not burning so much energy that we can't make a baby. Do you see how all these pieces are coming together? These are the big ones. And then the fifth one, everyone hates this one. They hate it because it's not a supplement. Everyone wants this to be a supplement. Yes, there are supplements we can take to help support fertility depending on where you're coming from. But the best supplement you can take, a low stress lifestyle. I know. Everyone hates that, right? Stress less. Do less. But here's what I found is even if your job is stressful and your family drives us nuts, a lot of us girls that kind of like go towards fitness found fitness as a way to cope. And it does help us to cope emotionally. But if we have a stressful foundation and then we add stress on through exercise or always saying yes to everything or always feeling like we have to be doing something like cleaning our house, going to an event, saying blah, blah, like that's just a lot of stress on your body. And do we want to create a new life in a hostile environment? No. And here's the thing I hear all the time. Megan and I were laughing about this the other day. We're like, these are the women who never think they have too much stress. They're always the ones that are like, but this is how I function. Okay, you're high functioning, but is your body like in overdrive? Because if your body's in overdrive, it's hard to know what calm and peaceful feels like. Megan told me that there's stress coaches who apparently are rising on the scene. I can't recommend any. I don't know anybody. But I think the truth is if you talk to not just a therapist, but even a dietitian who's helping you with fertility, we will start to help you figure out, well, how do we create more rest and peace in your life? And your brain may not like it. It might be, okay, you usually get up at 5 a.m. every day to go to the gym. How about we only do that on Monday and Tuesday? And then on Wednesday we get up and we just do something we want, or maybe we sleep. Like, honestly, the answer might be sleep all day, like the whole week. But let's just say this is the schedule we settle on. Maybe you get up and you just go take like a nice long walk during sunrise. You don't have a step goal. You're not listening to a podcast that's telling you how to seize the day and win the day and how to accomplish things. Like you're listening to a fiction novel, or you're listening to music that makes you feel happy. And you're not going to sweat. And you're not going to burn 500 calories, but that's the point. Or maybe you just get up and you like read a book, or you do some crafting. Like you do something that just makes you feel like a woman. I mean, I don't really know how else to explain, like a better way to explain that, but like something that makes you feel like this like embodied woman. That's so much, that's a big part of it, right? And I think the biggest lesson to this is when you become a mom, you have to master balance. You have to know when to be flexible, when to go with the flow, when to say yes and when to say no, when to help your children rest and when to rest yourself. And I really think that part of this experience, this like initiation into motherhood, is learning that balance for yourself. Learning that, hey, maybe while your body is demanding a lot of you, like your children will demand a lot of you, you don't need to get up at 5 a.m. Maybe you do need 8 hours of sleep. And then when you do get up, maybe you don't need pre-workout and then to like beat yourself up in the gym. Maybe you need like some scrambled pasture-raised eggs with avocado and whole grain toast and a nice long walk with a big glass of lukewarm water. yeah, you're not going to burn a lot of calories and you're not going to build a lot of muscle that day. And that's the freaking point. Anyway, I hope this podcast gave you something to think about. Is your lifestyle conducive for creating a life? Does your body feel safe in your body to take a bunch of materials away from you so that you're still alive and a new life can be created? That's what it comes down to. And when you deprive yourself and you run yourself dry, that process is not going to go well. It's not going to go well. If you're a gym girly who wants to find some balance, I'm always here for you. I linked our website in the show notes. You can book a consultation with us. We can talk you through what are some big things to change. We really, really want to help you. We really want you to think about lifestyle before you jump to other alternatives that are maybe expensive or invasive. Sometimes we really are our own worst enemy, and we can also be our best friend if we look at things from a new perspective. I'm so glad you joined me today. I will see you guys on the next episode.